Victims' families, Ashley Underwood QC, told her that many questions remain, including what West Midlands Police knew in advance of the threat. He said they may have been tipped off by an IRA informant. Who carried out the Birmingham pub bombings remains unanswered despite speculation over the years. West Midlands Police told the court their investigation remains open, but argued the coroner has no legal power to resume the inquests into the deaths. Sean Lloyd, BBC News, Birmingham.
Well, our correspondent Phil Mackey is in Solihull. One of the victims' relatives described any decision to reopen the inquest as seismic.
Well, that's what they want to happen. They really realise now that after all these years, there's little chance of a new criminal prosecution. There's absolutely no chance of a public inquiry. So they're pinning their hopes really on an inquest resuming. An inquest that was adjourned more than 40 years ago, as Sean just said. What they're desperate to hear is new evidence and hear from witnesses who weren't around then or weren't available then to try to get to the bottom of exactly what happened that night. Now, Ashley Underwood QC, who represented them, he said that there was a compelling case for that inquest to be reopened, and he said it would provide a proper and fearless investigation into the facts that night. And he said that actually the police had been given advance warning of the attacks but failed to act because they were trying to protect an IRA mole. Louise Hunt, who's the coroner, said there was an evidential vacuum and that she's ordered West Midlands Police to provide a long list of statements from the time, checking to see if any have been falsified. She wants to know which evidence has been lost or destroyed since the start of that, and whether or not there was an informant. West Midlands Police argue that there's no evidence to support any of these suggestions in any way. They say there was no legal justification for an inquest to be held. But when they came out afterwards, there was a spring in their steps. The families seemed happy, satisfied with what went on today. In fact, Julie Hamilton said it was a momentous day for them. They'll now have to wait. There'll be a further day of submissions next month, followed by a provisional date when the coroner Louise Hunt will give her ruling, and that is April the 6th later this year. But if there is an inquest, it won't happen for some time yet.
Phil, thank you very much. Phil Mackey there. This is BBC News at 5. The headlines this evening. Junior doctors in England are on strike for the second time in a dispute with the government over pay and conditions. Met Police Chief Sir Bernard Hogan-Howe orders an independent review into how historic child abuse allegations are investigated. A coroner's court is told there is a compelling case to resume an inquest into the deaths of 21 people in the Birmingham pub bombings more than 40 years after it was adjourned. Let's return now to the news that the Metropolitan Police's handling of cases involving allegations of historic child abuse by public figures is to be investigated by a former High Court judge. We get a reaction to this from one of the leading charities supporting victims of child sexual abuse. Gabriel Shaw is the CEO of NAPAD, that's the National Association of People Abused in Childhood. Did you see this statement from the Met Police Chief as one of panic from a man under pressure, or something much braver than that?
No, I wouldn't say panic. I think it's a very brave decision to do, and bring it out into the open like this. The transparency that it displays is to be welcomed.
How long do you think this investigation should look back?
It should look back. The investigation should look back into these cases. I think back to the beginning. What it's going to look at is actually police procedures, and they can't look at the judge can't look at everything. But I think in the big cases where there had been attention both from survivors, from the press, etc., those do need to be looked at. And where the police have got it wrong, I think they can be brave enough to admit it and to learn from it.
There is an irony in the choice of the judge to look into this because he oversaw the police handling of